The Velith Dominion had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. Their ships were the fastest, their weapons the most powerful. Their empire spanned 400 star systems, and every species they encountered either served them or died. That was the way it was. It was the only way. Censor Warden Krill occupied his post on the bridge of the Throne of Silence, the flagship. His job was simple. He scanned the darkness of space, searching for anything that seemed out of place. For 20 years he'd done this job. He'd found smugglers, pirates, and lost ships. He'd never found anything he couldn't explain until tonight. A tiny light appeared on his screen. It was there for less than an instant, then it vanished. Krill leaned forward and examined the data. The object had appeared 3 million kilometers away. It had no identifying signal. It wasn't sending any messages. His sensors couldn't tell him what it was made of or where it came from. He checked his equipment. Everything was working perfectly. He decided it was nothing. Space was full of strange radiation and floating rocks. Sometimes the sensors detected things that weren't there. He went back to his usual work. 2 hours later, the light reappeared. This time it was closer, 2 million kilometers away. Again, it vanished before he could get an accurate reading. Krill felt something cold move through his body. It wasn't radiation. It wasn't a rock. There was something out there. Something was watching them. He called his assistant. "Look at this," he said. He showed her the 2 readings. "What do you see?" She studied the data for a long time. Her face paled. "It's coming toward us," she said quietly. "And it's fast, Warden. This object is moving 3 times faster than our fastest ship." "That's impossible," Krill said. But she knew he was right. The numbers didn't lie. She had no choice. She had to inform High Commander Orthus. The High Commander was a tall creature with dark scales and eyes like black stones. He had destroyed entire civilizations. He had never known fear. 343 black makers. When Krill showed him the sensor readings, Orthus just stared at the screen for a long time. "You're telling me," Orthus said slowly. "There's something out there, something faster than us, something we can't identify, something that leaves no trace." "Yes, Commander. And it's coming." "Yes, Commander." Orthus turned to his communications officer. "Send a message on all frequencies, in all languages. Tell this unknown vessel to identify itself immediately. Tell it that failure to respond will be considered an act of war." The message echoed through the darkness. Every ship in the patrol fleet waited. 12 warships armed with enough weapons to set a planet ablaze, all pointed at empty space. There was no response. Minutes passed, then hours. Krill stared at his sensors until his eyes ached. The object never reappeared. Some officers began to relax. Maybe it was gone, maybe it hadn't been anything after all. Then Krill saw something that stopped his heart. The object appeared right behind their formation. It was close. So close that if it were a normal ship, they would have seen it through the windows. But there was nothing there. Only darkness, only stars, and then it was gone. "Hello, Commander," Krill whispered. He was right behind us. He was so close he grazed our ships. The bridge fell silent. Every officer understood what it meant. Something had come within range of the weapons of 12 Dominion ships. It had done so undetected until it chose to be, and it had left without a scratch. High Commander Orthus gripped the arms of his command chair. In 10,000 years, no one had done this to the Dominion. No one had ever made them feel like prey. "Find it," he ordered. "I don't care how, find it and destroy it." But deep down, in a place he would never show his crew, Orthus felt something he hadn't felt in centuries. He felt small. He felt watched. He felt afraid. Far away, hidden in the darkness among the stars, a small ship floated silently. It was called the Wanderer, and it was older than it looked. Its hull was covered with a special material that absorbed the sensor waves. Its engine was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. On the bridge of this small ship, Captain Park Tay sat in his chair, observing the Dominion fleet on his screen. He was a 45-year-old man with graying temples and a serene gaze who had witnessed many hardships. Beside him sat Lieutenant Yunhana, his pilot. She was younger, faster, with hands capable of flying a ship through an asteroid field without touching a single rock. They sent their message. Yunhana said, "They want us to identify ourselves." "I heard that," Captain Park replied. "Should we respond?" The captain smiled. It was a faint, dim, cautious smile. "No, not yet. Let them ask. Let them worry. Let them lose sleep." He stood up and looked at the stars through the main window. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere there were 8 billion humans who had no idea that a monster empire awaited them. Their job was to ensure that, when that encounter occurred, humanity wouldn't be seen as weak. "They've noticed us," he said quietly. "Good. Now let's see how they react to something they can't control, something they can't grasp, something they can't comprehend." The Wanderer turned slowly and began to move away, slipping between dimensions, becoming invisible once more. The Dominion's fleet scanned the darkness and found nothing. The Phantom had arrived. The Phantom had observed and had decided that the mighty Velith Dominion wasn't as powerful as it had believed. This was only the beginning. Empress Vithara's throne room was built from the bones of dead worlds. The walls were made of black stone, taken from planets the Dominion had conquered. The floor was polished metal from ships they had destroyed. Everything in this room was meant to remind visitors of one simple truth: the Velith Dominion always won. Empress Vitha, seated on her throne, listened to High Commander Orthus's report. She was an old woman in every sense of the word. She had ruled for over 300 years. Her scales were silvered with age, and her eyes glowed with a cold, inner light. She had seen empires rise and fall. She had ordered the deaths of billions. Nothing surprised her anymore, until now. "Are you telling me," she said in an icy voice, "that a single unknown object made your entire fleet look foolish?" Orthus kept his head bowed. "Yes, Empress, the object moves faster than anything recorded. It appears and disappears without warning. We can't track it, we can't catch it. We can't even scan it properly. Where did it come from? We believe it came from Baron's Reach, Empress. The dead zone beyond our border." The Empress was silent for a moment. Baron's Reach was a region of space the Dominion had ignored for thousands of years. The stars there were old and dying. The planets were cold and empty. There was no life there, nothing could live there, or so they always believed. "Find out what it is," he ordered. "Search every database, question every scientist. I want answers." The search began immediately. Thousands of academics and experts worked day and night. They reviewed records that went back 10,000 years. They studied every species the Dominion had ever known. They found nothing. No civilization in known space possessed such technology. No one could move so fast. No one could hide so well. The Phantom had emerged from nowhere, and that was the most terrifying thing of all. Far from the throne world, the Wanderer floated in the shadow of a dead star. Inside, the crew worked with serenity and concentration. Dr. Kang-Su was the oldest member. He was 58 years old, with white hair and hands that trembled slightly when he was excited. He was also the most intelligent person most people had ever met. He had dedicated 30 years to building the engine that made this mission possible. He called it a phase slip engine. It worked by pushing the ship into a narrow space between dimensions. In this space, normal rules didn't apply. Light moved differently. Time moved differently. A ship could travel vast distances in seconds and remain completely invisible to normal sensors. "The engine is working perfectly," he reported to Captain Park Tay. "We can maintain the time lag for another 6 months without major repairs." The captain nodded. "Good, we'll need every day of that time." Lieutenant Yun Hana looked up from her navigation console. "Captain, I've been thinking. It's strange that a ship keeps appearing and disappearing, but what if we could make them believe there are many ships?" Dr. Kang-Su's eyes lit up. "You mean the sensor echoes?" "Yes. Yes, I could do that. I could alter our phase signal to leave traces in multiple locations. We'd appear to be in 3 places at once." "Do it," Captain Park said. "Make them think we're a fleet." In a corner of the bridge, Specialist Noon sat at her communications station. She was a quiet woman who rarely spoke more than necessary, but she heard everything. Her job was to listen to the Dominion's signals, decipher their codes, and uncover their secrets. "Captain," she said quietly, "I've been monitoring their communications. They're afraid. Their military leaders are arguing amongst themselves. Some want to attack, others want to hide. None of them know what to do." Captain Park Tay approached her station and looked at the translations on her screen. Messages flowed between the Dominion worlds, each more gripped by panic than the last. Words like impossible and unknown threat and what do we do appeared again and again. "Good," he said. "Fear is our best weapon. We're a small ship with 5 people. They have thousands of warships and billions of soldiers. If they knew the truth, they'd crush us like insects. But they don't know it, and their imaginations are creating an enemy far more powerful than we are." He turned to address the entire crew. 2 years ago, our probes discovered the Velith domain. We learned what they do to species they deem weak. They conquer, they enslave, they destroy. Earth decided we wouldn't wait to be found. We would find them first and terrify them. Sergeant Baek Jin, head of security, spoke. He was a serious man with the bearing and gaze of a soldier. "And when they finally learn the truth, when they discover that we are only 5 humans on a single ship, by then," Captain Park replied, "they will have seen that humans are not easy prey. They'll know we have technology they don't understand. They'll think twice before attacking us. and that hesitation could save our entire species. 3 days later, the Wanderer put its plan into action. Lieutenant Yun Hana piloted the ship through 3 different star systems in a single hour. In each system, Dr. Kang Su activated the sensor echo to the domain's sensors. It seemed as if 3 different ships appeared simultaneously in 3 different locations. On the Dominion throne world, Sensor Keeper Krill stared at his screen, his eyes sunken. He hadn't slept in days. Reports were pouring in from all over the Empire. The Phantom was everywhere. It had been spotted near military bases, science stations, and even the Royal Dockyard where new warships were being built. 3 contacts, his assistant reported. All appeared simultaneously on different systems. All moved at impossible speeds. All vanished before we could respond. Krill covered his head with his hands. For 20 years, his job had been simple. Watch the darkness. Find something strange, report it. Now the darkness was watching him, and he had no idea what to do. A whisper was made into the void to whatever was listening. "What are you? What do you want?" There was no answer. Only silence and the cold light of distant stars. And somewhere in that silence, the Wanderer moved forward unseen, carrying with it its crew of 5 humans who had dared to defy an empire. The game had only just begun. The Velith Dominion was based on a simple idea: strength. The strong ruled, the weak served. For 10,000 years, this had been the law of the galaxy. Every species the Dominion encountered learned this lesson. Some learned it by surrendering, others by dying. But now, for the first time in 10,000 years, the Dominion felt weak. Ghost ships had been sighted in 12 different systems during the past month. They appeared near military bases. They appeared near gas stations. They appeared near the personal estates of powerful nobles. Each time the Dominion sent ships to intercept them, they found only empty space. Panic was spreading. In the border worlds, citizens demanded protection. Merchants refused to travel without armed escorts. Soldiers whispered in dark corners, sharing rumors of unseen enemies that could not be stopped. In the Imperial Senate, the Dominion's leaders debated what to do. "We must attack," shouted Admiral Vaughn, commander of the Eastern Fleet. "We must send all our ships to Barren Basin and burn everything we find there." "Attack what?" replied Senator Thessa, a weary-eyed old woman. "We don't even know what we're fighting. We don't know where they're coming from. We don't know how many there are." "You can't fight shadows with warships. So what do you suggest? That we hide, that we wait to be attacked?" "I suggest," Senator Thessa said slowly, "that we consider a possibility we've never considered before. What if these beings don't want to fight? What if they're testing us, studying us?" The Senate was silent. It was a strange idea. The Dominion didn't study other species. It conquered them. The idea that someone might be studying the Dominion in the same way it studied insects was deeply unsettling. Empress Vitha listened to the arguments from her throne. Finally, she raised a hand and the room fell silent. "Enough," she said. "We will not hide, we will not wait, High Commander Orthus. You will assemble the largest fleet in our history, 200 warships. You will hunt down these phantoms and destroy them. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care how many ships you lose. You will find them and end this." Orthus bowed. "It shall be done, Empress." The fleet took 3 weeks to assemble, 200 warships, each capable of destroying a city in minutes. 50,000 soldiers, the finest weapons the Dominion had ever built. It was the most powerful force ever assembled in one place. High Commander Orthus stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Fist of the Empire. He watched as his fleet spread through space like a net, ready to ensnare anything that moved. "Begin the search," he ordered. "Check every rock, scrutinize every shadow, nothing escapes." The hunt began. Far away, hidden near a gas giant with rings of ice and stone, the Wanderer observed the Dominion fleet through long-range sensors. Dr. Kang Su emitted a low whistle. 200 ships. This time they mean business. Sergeant B. Jin stood by the weapons console, though the vagrant carried very few weapons. His job was to defend the ship if all else failed. Seeing the enormous fleet on the screen, he felt very small. "Captain," he said cautiously, "if they find us, we can't fight off so many ships. We can't even fight one of their warships. Our only defense is to stay hidden." "I know," Captain Park replied. He didn't seem worried. He seemed calm, like someone playing a game he knows he'll win. "Then why are you smiling? Because they made a mistake. They gathered all their best ships in one place. They're looking outwards, searching for us in the darkness. They don't see what's right in front of them." Lieutenant Yun Hana understood instantly. "They want us to break through their fleet?" "Yes," Sergeant Baek Jin glared at the captain. "That's crazy." "No, it's psychology. Right now they think we're hiding somewhere far away." They think we're afraid of them. If we fly over the center of their fleet, right past their flagship, we'll prove we can go wherever we want. We'll show that their most powerful weapons mean nothing to us. Fear will spread throughout their civilization. He turned to Dr. Kangu. Can we do this safely? The old engineer thought for a moment. If we stay out of phase, they won't be able to touch us. But for the psychological impact, we should only be visible for a short time. 2 seconds should be enough for them to detect us on their sensors. 2 seconds, Captain Park agreed, then we'll disappear. Lieutenant Yun plot a direct course through the center of their formation. Pass within 1 kilometer of the flagship. Yun Hana's fingers moved across her console. His heart pounded, but his hands were steady. That was why he'd joined this mission. This was the moment that would change everything. Course set, he said, ready at your command. Captain Park Tay looked at his small crew. 5 humans against an empire, 1 small ship against 200 warships. From any logical standpoint, they shouldn't be there. They shouldn't be alive, but humans had never been logical. They had always aspired to things that seemed impossible. They had always refused to accept their limitations. Go, he said. The Wanderer slipped between dimensions and flew. On the Fist of the Empire bridge, alarms suddenly blared. All the sensors showed the same thing. An unknown object was moving at an impossible speed, heading straight for them. Fire, shouted High Commander Orthus. All ships fire! 200 warships opened fire at once. The space around them filled with energy beams, missiles, and bullets. Enough firepower to destroy a moon, enough destruction to burn a world. They hit nothing. The Phantom flickered through the formation like smoke through fingers. For 2 seconds it was visible on every screen, small, swift, untouchable. It passed within a kilometer of the Orthus flagship, so close he could almost feel it. Then it vanished. The firing ceased. Silence filled the bridge. High Commander Orthus stared at the empty space where the Phantom had been. His hands trembled. His heart pounded. 200 ships, 50,000 soldiers, the most powerful fleet in the Dominion's history, and they hadn't achieved anything. He slumped heavily in his command chair. For the first time in his long life, he understood something terrible. The Dominion wasn't hunting the Phantom. The Phantom was hunting them and toying with their food. On the Wanderer, the crew remained silent. They had just accomplished something that would be remembered forever. They had pierced the heart of enemy power and emerged unscathed. Lieutenant Yun Hana exhaled deeply. Her hands were finally trembling now that it was all over. Captain Park Tay gazed at the stars on his screen. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere billions of humans would never know what had happened today. Well done, he said softly. Now they know the truth. No matter how many ships they build, no matter how many weapons they carry, they can't catch us, they can't stop us, they can't even touch us. He paused and added, it's almost time to show them who we are. The Wanderer turned and flew into the darkness, leaving behind the shattered pride of an empire. Empress Vitha hadn't slept for 6 days. She sat alone in her private chamber, surrounded by screens displaying reports from across her empire. Every report was negative. The ghost had humiliated her fleet. The news had spread to every corner of the Dominion. The citizens were asking themselves unprecedented questions. How could the Empress protect them? How could she proclaim herself ruler of the galaxy if she couldn't capture a single ship? Her advisors came to her with plans. Build more ships, develop new weapons, intensify research. She rejected them all. None of it would matter. The ghost had proven it could go anywhere, do anything, and escape unharmed. More ships would only mean more ships would fail to capture it. For the first time in 300 years, Empress Vithara didn't know what to do. Then, the impossible happened again. The ghost appeared above, not at the edge of the system, not hiding behind a moon. It appeared in high orbit above the throne world itself, directly above the Imperial Palace, the most heavily defended place in the entire Dominion. Alarms blared across the planet. Defense stations activated their weapons. Thousands of cannons were aimed at the small ship hovering in the darkness above them. Generals shouted orders. Soldiers rushed to their positions. But the Phantom did not flee. It did not vanish. He was simply waiting for the vagrant. The bridge was silent. Everyone knew what was about to happen. They had been planning this moment for months, but planning and execution were 2 very different things. They have us at gunpoint, Lieutenant Yun Hana reported. Her voice was firm, but Captain Park Tay could see the tension in her shoulders. Thousands of weapons. If we lose the offset, they'll destroy us in seconds. We won't lose the offset, the captain replied. We'll remain protected, but we'll let them see us. We'll let them scan us, and we'll send them a message. He turned to Specialist Noon. Are you ready? The silent woman nodded. Her fingers hovered over her console. He had spent weeks preparing this message. First, he would send mathematics, prime numbers, universal constants, the language any intelligent species would understand. This would prove they weren't random noise or a natural phenomenon. Then he would send words. "Do it," Captain Park said. Noon pressed a button and the message began to be transmitted. In the Imperial Palace, Empress Vithara watched her screens wide-eyed. The ghost was sending a signal. After so long, after so much silence, it was finally speaking. The first part of the message was numbers. Her scientists recognized them immediately. Prime numbers, mathematical constants. "It's intelligent," one of them whispered. "It's trying to communicate." Then the words arrived. They appeared on every screen on the planet, perfectly translated into the Dominion's script. Someone had learned their language. Someone had been listening. The message read, "We are not your enemies. We are not your prey. We are humanity, and we choose when you see us." Empress Vithra read the words 3 times. Humanity? I'd never heard that name before. Their vast databases contained no record of any species called humanity. They'd truly appeared out of nowhere. "Scan it," he ordered. "Full scan. I want to know everything about that ship." For the first time, the ghost allowed itself to be scanned completely. The results appeared on her screen, and Empress Vithara felt her blood run cold. The ship was small, tiny really, barely larger than a personal shuttle. It carried almost no weapons. Its armor was thin. From any perspective, it shouldn't be anything. A toy, something a Dominion warship could destroy without losing speed. But it had brought down the greatest empire in the galaxy. "They're letting us see them." One of their advisors said, "They want us to know they're not a fleet. They're not an armada. They're a small ship we can't catch." Another advisor added, "A small ship that can go anywhere in our empire whenever it wants." The Phantom remained visible for 30 seconds. 30 seconds with thousands of weapons pointed at it. 30 seconds in which the entire planet held its breath. Then slowly it began to fade. "Wait," Empress VTH said. She didn't know why she said it. She didn't expect the ghost to hear her, but it stopped fatting. It waited. It leaned forward. "What do you want?" it asked. "Why have you come? Why have you appeared before us?" The answer appeared on its screen, letter by letter. "We have come to introduce ourselves. One day, your empire and our people will meet properly. When that day comes, we want you to remember this moment. We want you to remember that we could have been enemies. We could have destroyed your ships and killed your soldiers, but we chose not to. We chose to talk. We hope you will make the same choice." "What?" Empress Vitha contemplated the words for a long time. In 10,000 years, no one had spoken to the Dominion like this. No one had ever had the power to speak to it like this. She wanted to be angry. She wanted to order every weapon to fire until the Phantom was destroyed. But she was too old and too wise for mere anger. She recognized something in this message, something she hadn't seen in a long time. Respect. These creatures, these humans, weren't attacking. They weren't demanding anything. They were simply demonstrating that they couldn't be intimidated. They were demonstrating that they deserved to be treated as equals. "Open a channel," he said quietly. "I want to speak with them directly." His advisors looked surprised. "Empress, we cannot negotiate." "I am not negotiating," he interrupted. "I am acknowledging there is a difference." The channel opened. Empress Vithara looked into the empty space where she knew the ghost waited. "I hear your message," she said. "I understand what you mean. When our people are properly reunited, I will remember this day." There was a pause, then a final message appeared. "Thank you. We'll be in touch." The Phantom vanished, slipping between dimensions, disappearing into the darkness among the stars. Empress Vithara leaned back on her throne. Around her, advisors spoke rapidly, trying to comprehend what had just happened. She ignored them all. She turned to her oldest advisor, a creature who had served her for over 100 years. "What are humans?" she asked him. He didn't know the answer. But for the first time in days, Empress Vithara smiled. It was a small, faint, thoughtful smile. She had ruled the domain for 300 years, understanding power, and today she had learned something new about power. True power wasn't just the ability to destroy. True power lay in the ability to choose not to destroy. These humans, whoever they were, understood that lesson. Perhaps he thought they would be worthy opponents, or perhaps something even more exceptional. Perhaps they would be worthy allies. Only time would tell. On the Wanderer, Captain Park Tay watched as the throne world shrank on his screen as they flew away. His crew remained silent, still processing what they had done. "Sir," Lieutenant Yunhana finally said, "did it really work? Did we just speak to the ruler of an empire?" "Yes," Captain Park replied, and she listened. "She did." Sergeant Bake-Jin slowly shook his head. "I never thought I'd live to see this day. One ship, 5 people, and we created an empire. Stop and listen." Dr. Kangu smiled, his wild grin. That's humanity. We don't wait for permission. We don't ask to be heard. We simply show up and refuse to be ignored. Specialist Noun looked up from her console. Captain, I'm receiving a message from Earth. High Command wants a full report. Captain Park nodded. Tell them that Phase 1 is over. The Dominion knows we exist. They know they can't catch us. And most importantly, they know we want to talk. He gazed at the stars, thinking of the billions of humans back home who would never know how close they had come to being discovered by predators. Thanks to this mission, thanks to this small ship and its courageous crew, humanity would not face the galaxy as victims. It would face it as equals. Set course for the rendezvous point, he ordered. It's time to prepare for the next step. The wandering ship turned and flew home, carrying with it the hope of an entire species. 3 months passed. In that time, the galaxy changed. News of the Phantom ship spread to every corner of Dominion space. Scholars wrote articles about it. Children told stories about it. The name of humanity was whispered in marketplaces and military bases, in royal courts and remote colonies. No one knew what humans looked like. No one knew where they came from, but everyone knew one thing. They could not be captured or ignored. Empress Vitha sent a message into the darkness. She proposed a meeting, neutral ground. No weapons, no tricks, only words. To her surprise, the humans agreed. The meeting point was carefully chosen. It was an inactive system on the edge of the arid expanse, far from any world in the Dominion. A solitary star, old and red, surrounded by empty rocks. Nothing lived here, nothing ever had. The Dominion sent a diplomatic vessel, unarmed and unarmored, as promised. High Commander Orthus was aboard, along with the Empire's most distinguished scientists and scholars. They had orders to learn everything they could about humanity. They arrived first and waited. Then, right on time, 3 ships appeared out of nowhere. The Wanderer was in the center, flanked by 2 smaller escort vessels. So, after all, the humans had more than 1 ship, but still only 3. The Dominion was expecting a fleet. Captain Park observed the Dominion ship on his screen. It was large and elegant, covered in symbols and decorations that identified it as a vessel of great importance. Beside it, its crew prepared for the most crucial moment of their mission. Are we really going to do this? Lieutenant Yunhana asked, boarding the ship. Just the 3 of us will do it, Captain Park replied. Dr. Kang and I will handle the talking. You 2 will observe and listen. Sergeant Bake, you will stay here with the ship. If anything goes wrong, leave immediately. Sergeant Bake, Jin nodded. He didn't like staying put, but he understood. Someone had to be ready to warn Earth if this was a trap. The captain, the pilot, and the engineer boarded a small shuttle and flew toward the Dominion ship. As they approached, the great ship opened its doors to welcome them. Inside, they found a grand hall built to impress visitors. The walls were covered in gold and silver. Lights hung from the ceiling like captured stars. At the far end of the hall stood the Dominion delegation. Tall creatures with dark scales and cold eyes. High Commander Orthus stepped forward to greet them. He had expected humans to be large, powerful beings of metal or energy, something befitting the fear they had inspired. Instead, he saw 3 small creatures with smooth skin and fragile bodies. They had no claws, armor, or natural weapons of any kind. Physically, they looked like prey. You are the humans, he said. We are, Captain Park replied. His voice was calm and steady. He showed no fear, not even in the face of creatures twice his size. You are smaller than I expected. Size isn't everything. Orthus stared at the human for a long moment. Then, despite himself, he laughed. It was a harsh sound, but there was genuine amusement in it. No, he nodded. I suppose not. Please sit down. We have much to discuss. They sat down at a large table. On one side, the humans, on the other, the Dominion. For a moment, no one spoke. 2 civilizations meeting for the first time, trying to understand each other. A scientist from the Dominion spoke first. We have studied your ship. Its propulsion system uses principles we don't understand. Its ability to travel between dimensions shouldn't be possible according to our physics. How did you develop that technology? Dr. Kang-Su smiled. He had been expecting this question. Your empire is 10,000 years old. He said, you have been the most powerful force in the galaxy all this time. You had no need to innovate, to change, to be afraid. He paused to let his words sink in. Humanity has been a spaceship species for 300 years. We have always been weak. We have always been small. We always knew the universe was full of things that could destroy us. So we learned to run faster than anything could catch us. We learned to hide better than anything could find us. Fear made us smart. Desperation made us creative. He looked at the powerful aliens around the table. They stopped inventing because they didn't need to. We never stopped because we couldn't afford to." Silence followed his words. The Dominion delegation exchanged uncertain glances. They had never considered their long-standing Dominion a weakness, but hearing it described thus, they were unable to argue. High Commander Orthus leaned forward. His ship passed through the center of my fleet. 200 warships fired with all their might. They hit nothing. How is that possible? Because we weren't there. Lieutenant Yunhana replied, "We moved through a layer of space that your weapons can't reach. To us, your firepower was like light passing through glass, beautiful to behold but completely harmless." Orthus lay back. He remembered that moment, the helplessness he felt, the fear. Now he understood. "So that we cannot harm you," he said slowly. Captain Park Tay replied, "Since we are not conquerors, we do not want your worlds or your resources. We only want to be left in peace. When your empire finally discovers our home, we want you to approach us with respect, not with hunger. And if we choose not to respect you, you will never find us. We will remain ghosts. We will watch their ships and penetrate their defenses, and they won't even know we're there. We can be the best friends the Dominion has ever had, or we can be the worst nightmare it has ever faced. The choice is yours." Another silence. The Dominion delegation whispered among themselves. Finally, another prompt. A holographic image appeared at the head of the table. Empress Vithara was watching from the other side of the galaxy. "I heard this conversation," she said. Her ancient eyes studied the three small humans. "They are brave creatures, perhaps foolish, but brave. They entered the heart of my empire with only their courage and their strange technology. We had to," Captain Party replied. "We couldn't allow them to discover us on their own terms. We had to ensure the first encounter was on equal terms. Equality." Empress Vithara made a sound that might have been laughter. 300 years versus 10,000, 3 ships versus millions. Is that what they call equality? Equality isn't about numbers. It's about capability. They can't capture us, they can't harm us, they can't find our home. That makes us equal enough. The Empress was silent for a long moment. Then she did something that surprised everyone in the room. She nodded. "I offer you cooperation," she said, "not as subjects of the Dominion, but as independent allies with trade, communication, and mutual defense. You would be the first species to receive such an offer." Captain Park bowed his head slightly. "We are honored by your offer, Empress, but humanity must remain independent. We are not ready to join any alliance. Perhaps that will change in time. For now, we ask only for peace." "Peace," the Empress repeated, "a small request. Very well, you will have your peace, but I hope we will meet again." Captain Park Tay of humanity, "I hope so." The hologram faded. The meeting was over. As the humans returned to their shuttle, High Commander Orthus walked alongside Captain Park Tay. "I must admit something," the alien said quietly. "When I learned of your ship, I wanted to destroy it. I wanted to prove that the Dominion was still supreme. Now I'm not sure what I feel." "You feel what every being feels when it experiences something new," Captain Park replied. "Uncertainty, fear, curiosity, these are good feelings. They mean you're still capable of growth." Orthus stopped walking. "As long as they leave us alone, yes, we don't want war. We only wanted to be seen, known, respected. You have succeeded." Captain Park smiled. "Then our mission is complete." He boarded his shuttle and flew back to the Wanderer. Within minutes, the 3 human ships turned and flew away, gliding between dimensions, disappearing into the darkness. High Commander Orthus watched them depart. He thought about the small, soft creatures he had just met. They should have been prey. By the law of nature, they should have been conquered long ago, but they had refused to be. They had refused to be conquered. They had entered the predator's lair and emerged as equals. He wondered what other surprises awaited these humans in the galaxy. On the Wanderer, the crew remained silent as they flew home. The mission was over. They had accomplished their mission. Humanity was no longer unknown. They were no longer invisible. The galaxy would remember them. Lieutenant Yunhana set the course for Earth. "We did it," she said softly. "We really did it." Dr. Kang-Su was already thinking about improving the engine. Sergeant Baek Jin was performing system checks. Specialist No Anun was preparing the report for ground command. Captain Park Tay watched his small crew, his family of 5 who had defied an empire. "We came to the galaxy like ghosts," he said. "No identification, no signal, no origin. We arrived as a mystery, but now they will remember the name. They will remember humanity." They gazed at the stars that stretched before them. Beyond them lay Earth, blue and green, teeming with life. Beyond them were 8 billion humans who would awaken tomorrow in a safer galaxy. They had no idea how close they had come to being discovered by predators. They knew nothing of the 5 brave individuals who had spent months flying through enemy space, risking everything to change the galaxy's perception of their species. It didn't matter. They didn't need to know. What mattered was that when humanity finally entered the galactic stage, they would do so with their heads held high. Not as victims, not as prey, not as subjects, as equals. The wanderer flew through the darkness, carrying the hopes of a species, finally returning home. And behind them, an empire watched the stars and wondered what other impossible things these strange, small, and fearless humans could do.